Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports for today. It is qualifying day. Of course, we do have FP3 ahead of us now in the next 8 minutes or so, but it is one of the more exciting days of the race calendar, and it is qualifying ahead of us in Monaco. I'm certainly looking forward to that session later on this afternoon, but for this FP3 session here today, we're going to wait to see if the likes of the Red Bulls, the McLarens, and the Mercedes drivers are able to catch that runaway Ferrari. Speaking of that runaway Ferrari, Charles Leclerc has had a great weekend out so far. Of course, this is his home race. He's been plagued by that Monaco curse so far in his career, not having taken a race win around the circuit. But could he finally break that drought this weekend? One of the teams that have been struggling the most this weekend, though, are the likes of the Saubers. They brought new parts for this Monaco Grand Prix weekend, but they are still really struggling to find any pace out on this circuit. Um, I was quite surprised, though, to see the likes of Mercedes jumping forward in the order this weekend. I think it's possibly because it's not one of the higher speed circuits. They normally struggle in higher speed circuits. So with the downforce nature of the circuit, it really does suit their team and their cars a lot better. As we have Pureblood in the comment section saying, let's go F1 family. Thank you very much for joining us. Be sure to let us know down in the comment section where you're watching in from and who you are supporting for this race weekend. Looking at these track-specific upgrades or track-specific parts that they brought for this race weekend, the likes of Red Bull's high downforce rear wing, McLaren's high downforce gurney wing at the back of the car. The floors are, of course, uh, the main generators of downforce in this new generation of Formula One cars, but they're putting on as much as they can in order to extract any extra downforce to go that little bit faster around the circuit. Looking at all of the boats lined in the marina here in Monaco, it is chock-a-block as it has always been. But just ticking into the final few minutes before this free practice 3 session gets underway. We spoke a little bit about Charles Leclerc. His teammate, though, Carlos Sainz, a little bit off the pace of him. I think he was in about 5th, where Charles Leclerc was, of course, up in 1st. He can, though, look at that data of Charles Leclerc's and get an idea of what he's doing in his car, what direction he's going setup wise. Maybe that can make a difference for him this weekend, but we'll have to wait and see what we're going to get in terms of the pace from that sister Ferrari. Laughing Adventure saying, I'm from India supporting Charles. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for all of the love being spammed in that comment section, as we're now getting the titles rolling with 5 minutes left on the clock till the start of the FP3 session. Just looking at all those boats, an immense amount of wealth being shown here in Monaco. We've seen the likes of a yacht with the Bugatti Chiron on the back, a little bit excessive. They had a Ferrari F40 on it last year, just outdoing themselves clearly this year. But it is home for a lot of drivers that, of course, live in Monaco. Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc is, of course, a born Monegasque, but Max Verstappen has a house there. Daniel Ricciardo has a house there. Lando Norris has a house there as well. I think Lewis Hamilton also does. So a lot of drivers call it home. Of course, it is a tax haven, which is why they decide to live there. But it is a beautiful part of this planet where we have the beautiful marina in which the circuit is built around for the 8th round of this Formula One championship, looking at the views overhead of this iconic historic circuit of or on the Formula One calendar, looking at the 3 sectors of 3.3 kilometers, full throttle spent at 44% of the track. The top speed is only 293 kilometers an hour, not as high as we're used to being seen in Formula One, with 19 turns and an elevation of 41.5 meters. So a lot of elevation, of course, the majority of that coming into turn 2 and 3. Looking at the compounds for this race weekend, we have the softest, once again in the Pirelli range of the C5, C4, and C3 tyres. C5 being your soft, C4 your mediums, C3 being the hards. The amount of yachts all outside of the marina, there must be about 40 all out there. Just once again, immense wealth being shown once again in Monaco. It is just absolutely packed once again into Monaco, where we see the population of the city jump probably about 2 or 3 times during the Monaco race weekend. Looking at the conditions, though, of the circuit, currently 46 degrees track temperature, air temperature being 21 degrees Celsius, and high humidity, of course, being next to the ocean. Looking at the wind, it is quite low, 2.9 kilometers an hour at the moment, so nothing that is going to perturb the drivers all too much today. That is what they'll be wanting to hear, because of course it is a very tricky circuit right next to the ragged edge at all times. No runoff zones. You're pretty much next to the barrier the entirety of the track, and any little mistakes can have massive consequences, as we saw with Mick Schumacher during the race, I think 2 or 3 years ago here in Monaco, where he made that mistake into the swimming pool section and caused the red flag due to him splitting his car in half because of the massive shunt that he did have. We're looking at Max Verstappen's car getting ready to get sent out on the circuit. Looks like they had a little bit of Flover's paint on the brake duct, so maybe just having a little bit of a look at the airflow of that new part. Charles Leclerc getting ready to get in his car, putting on a new balaclava. Looking at the current Constructors' Championship standings, Red Bull right ahead with 268 points. Ferrari in second with 212 points. McLaren in third with 154 points. Mercedes in fourth with 79. Aston Martin in fifth with 44 points. VCarb with 20 points in sixth. Haas in seventh. Alpine in eighth. Williams in ninth, and Sauber in 10th. So Williams and Sauber have yet to score any points this season so far. Jason Plays in the comment section saying Max has been struggling in FP1 and FP2 this weekend, and it will hopefully make everything a little bit more interesting. That is certainly what we're hoping for. But we saw last weekend out in Imola how he was struggling in the practice sessions, especially in practice 1 and practice 2. But he seemed to turn things around in practice 3 and into qualifying, just using some tactics, using that multi-world championship brain, and finding a way to take himself to the top of the timing boards in that qualifying session in Imola, gaining the toe from Nico Hülkenberg. Just awaiting the cars to start lining up at the end of the pit lane. Red light is still being shown. We still have about a minute left on the clock. Who will be the first, though, at the end of the pit lane today? Little bit of shuffling down there as we now see the green light. Carlos Sainz is in his car, waiting to get his hands device on. As George Russell seems to be the first one out on track here today. Those of you joining with us for the first time, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well, so that you can be notified when we go live for Formula One, for Moto GP as well. It is an exciting race weekend. This weekend, we are bringing you the Monaco Grand Prix, as well as the Spanish Moto GP, which is going live in about 2.5 hours from now. Then D-Way saying hello everyone in the comment section. Pure Blood saying Ferrari had engines on max power yesterday, so Ferrari not as fast as they seem. Well, we don't really know what is actually happening, but if that is true, then that does make a little bit of sense. Mango J in the comment section, watching Charles Leclerc getting ready to get in his car. He has got a new helmet design for this race weekend, of course, with it being his home race. George Russell comes onto the radio saying it feels very different, the steering, compared to yesterday. He was having a lot of steering issues yesterday. hopefully this is a good sign for him, a good different feeling, hopefully not a bad different feeling, otherwise he will be wanting to come straight back to the pits. He doesn't though, so he continues on his lap to start his first hot lap of this FP3 session. George Russell now climbing up the hill towards Chapel. Coming around turn 3, 4, and 5, such a difficult sector of the circuit. Double left-hander into a very quick and tight right-hander into Casino. He then approaches the Mirabeaus, where there's that very iconic hairpin into Upper Mirabeau, then Lower Mirabeau, where we saw Max Verstappen hit into the barriers yesterday. George Russell on a set of soft tyres at the moment. I don't think he's pushing it all too much. Of course, the cars do look a little bit slower around here, but when it looks slow, it normally means that they are going quite fast. Waiting for him to come through the final sector, watching just after Rasgas into the final 2 corners. As we're seeing Oscar Piastri in the pits, having a practice pit stop, being put onto a set of mediums, brand new set of mediums. Mango J says they are hoping that Leclerc will get pole later on this afternoon. And Mango J and Pureblood just chatting about the new McLaren livery for this race weekend in tribute to Ayrton Senna. It is certainly a beautiful livery that is sticking out so well around the circuit, as we're watching Yuki Tsunoda coming through the final sector to set up a lap for himself. Someone else in the comment section there giving their support for Leclerc and for his pole. Russell saying there's no vibrations, which is obviously good. The steering is very light, turning left, and heavier turning right. So still not 100% happy in the car. It is an improvement, but still not entirely what he needs. At a track where precision is absolutely everything, you need to be on the limit at all times, and you need to have just the utmost confidence in your steering inputs. Old Man Roo in the comment section saying, hello, Reese and global Formula One family with 3 kangaroos. Thank you very much for joining us once again, Old Man Roo, one of our regulars on this channel. Watching one of everyone in the comment section's favorite drivers, though, going around on circuit right now. I'm not talking about Charles Leclerc. I'm talking about Fernando Alonso, who is setting himself up to start a hot lap. I say that, but he dives into the pits just after Rasgas. Mardia saying that they want Charles Leclerc to win his first home Grand Prix tomorrow, as Mango J says Leclerc did well in FP2. Fernando Alonso just does a practice pit stop, gets released onto a set of new hards, I think these are. Yes, correct. A set of new hards as he now leaves the pits again and goes back out onto circuit. Seven drivers with lap times currently out on circuit. Most of them installation laps at this point, so nothing too exciting in the opening stages of this FP3 session, but it should start to ramp up a little bit more throughout. Of course, they are going to be doing their initial installation laps to see if any changes they've made overnight have made significant improvements or uh, certainly hampered their pace a little bit, and then they'll come back in and then hopefully go out and do some long runs, and then at the end of the afternoon some quali runs ahead of qualifying later on. Les Green saying afternoon all, and Mango Jane saying my favorite driver currently is Lando, hoping he gets onto the podium as well this weekend. We're seeing now Charles Leclerc in the car, belted up, steering wheel on. Hopefully that means he will be out on circuit shortly. It's certainly who everyone is wanting to see this weekend out here in Monaco. A lot of Leclerc fans in grandstands. Only one driver currently out on circuit with Kevin Magnussen. Looking at Kevin Magnussen's last few races, 12th in Italy, 19th in the US, 16th in China. So hopefully he will be able to have a little bit better of a weekend out here in Monaco. Magnussen now continues on his run, climbs up the hill towards Chapel and Casino. Coming now down towards the Mirabeau, sets the fastest first sector, faster than George Russell in his house right now. He is on a set of soft tyres. Magnussen now coming through the tunnel, through turn 9, now into the sun, approaching turn 10, the very difficult left-hander, into the right-hander, and then another left-hander. He then starts to approach the swimming pool sector, one of the more tricky sectors on this circuit, a very technical sector. Hard on the brakes, quick right-hander, quick left-hander once again, and then approaching Rasgas. The final major corner on the circuit before you have 19 and 20, a very quick right and left-hander, just a flourish on the wheel. We see how quick the drivers go through there and how close they get to the barriers. He goes fastest with 1:14.683. Does Kevin Magnussen a very good lap time for himself. As Old Man Roo says, I'd also love to see Leclerc get a win tomorrow. We're watching now Max Verstappen getting balaclavaed and belted up into his car. Pierre Blood mirroring my thoughts a little bit here, saying that he wants a Piastri win. I certainly also would love to see an Oscar Piastri win. Lewis Hamilton now also out on circuit doing his first timed lap of the session, 0.2 up on Magnussen's first sector. Watching Hamilton now coming into the tunnel sector, approaching the very, very tricky bus stop chicane. Through 10 and 11, that very tight chicane. Now approaching to back, turn 14, I think it is, turn 12, getting a little bit of traffic on his inside, half a second up on Magnussen's time as he comes through the swimming pool. Now through Rasgas, the final major corner once again, turn 18, 19, and the slight left of 20 to straighten up the car now as he comes through the not so straight of Monaco, finishes up his lap time with 1:14.1, 0.58 faster than Kevin Magnussen in second place. It is great this weekend. We have some new images around this Monaco circuit. We've never had aerial views around Monaco before, but this weekend they have finally brought helicopters over uh, the circuit here. Ethan saying Lewis is on fire. George Russell 3.3 down on Hamilton's first sector time, but Russell seems to be on more long runs right now. Russell now coming through the tunnel into the sun, blinded for a second, then hard onto the brakes for turn 10 and 11. Now the left hand off to back, really hard on the brakes through there, so clearly carrying a lot of fuel and going hard onto the brakes not to unsettle the car all too much. Looking at Mirabeau, I know that there's a McDonald's close by there because I've been there in the past. Turn 8 now, Bottas being told so far we see the track about half a second slower than FP2. It is a little bit hotter in this set. Bottas coming through turn 10 and 11 now. A little bit harder on the curbs, unsettles the car a little bit, sliding around. Now coming through to back. What's he looking like through there? Keeps it into fifth. Now through swimming pool sector, where we've seen people hit the wall there and qualify. Oh, he does. He breaks his. Oh, he's broken his front right steering rod. So that is it from Valtteri Bottas now. That is horrific for him as he now has to bail out into Rasgas. Red flag has been brought out as he cannot turn his car, so he is stuck at the Rasgas turn. He is reversing the car, trying to get it back to the pits, but he has broken his front right suspension and steering rod, so I don't know if he is going to be able to get it to turn enough. He's kind of having to do a multi-point turn right now, as yes, Mango J, the red flag is currently out on circuit. We're getting another Austin Powers multi-point turn like we started getting from Charles Leclerc in Miami before he cooked his gearbox. Just watching what happened to Valtteri Bottas. Turn 14 into 15, gets super close. Then 16, he hits the barrier on the exit, gets a little bit of a slide as he comes through turn 14. Well, turn 15, I apologize. And then just on the exit, as he's sliding in turn 15, he hits the rear. That brings the front back round, and he hits the front right. That breaks that steering rod and the suspension, and that is him out. As Mango J says, it's the first severe crash of Sauber this season. Lando Norris was leaving the pits when the red flag was brought out, so he is now being pushed back into the pit lane as Lewis Hamilton is stuck in turn 18, waiting for Valtteri Bottas to try and get his car turned around. He is now out of the car, so he has now abandoned it. Lewis Hamilton just having to wait a little bit. I'm expecting a red flag or two during the qualifying session later on as the drivers start to put themselves really on the limit to extract the lap times around the circuit. It is going to be difficult for them, especially for the likes of Sauber now, who have a bit of work to do in this session, in the remainder of the session. Hopefully they'll be able to get the car sorted. Just watching Lewis Hamilton, he locked up on the brakes into turn 18 because he didn't know that Bottas was stuck there in turn 18. As now the Sauber is pushed into that retrieval zone. Surprised they don't just push it into the pits from there because they're so close. We should get the green flag very, very shortly, as I'm hearing some drivers starting to leave the pit boxes to go to the end of the pit lane. Just watching a historic lap from 1990 of Ayrton Senna, of course, paying tribute to him this weekend with that McLaren livery. Watching him coming down the start-finish straight into turn 1 with a scream of that V10, real hard barrier on the right, sliding it through turn 1. Just amazing with this raw power and just the vibrations through the chassis of these old Formula One cars. Now coming through turns 4 and 5 as we lose some of the camera quality as the track gets to its highest points. Now coming down the circuit, down through Casino into the Mirabos. So bumpy as you see the suspension really doing its work, really slow through the tight hairpin. Now wide as he's coming through the entrance of the tunnel. Just incredible to see this lap of Ayrton Senna. Says, but now we lose his coverage as he comes through the barrier, well, through the tunnel there. Now coming through the Nouvelle Chicane. Just incredible. The curves were huge back in the day. really, really tricky for these drivers. Now coming through to back, it was a lot wider by the looks of it, or maybe it was just the cars were a lot smaller. Now through 14 and 15, slightly different to as it is today, much harder barriers, comes right up next to the restaurants then. And now he comes to Rasgas, which was a lot tighter back in the day. Now through the final 19th and 20th corner, where we would have DRS, as we now have the green flag once again in this session. Mango J just saying the V10 was better than these awful damn V6s. I certainly agree. There are supposedly some regulation changes coming in the future to increase the size of the engines and increase the noise that we have of these cars. Once they go towards those sustainable fuels, I would certainly really be happy to get that once again. TC says Mercedes was the bumpiest car for the last couple of years. Can't believe it suits the circuit so well this year. Certainly very interesting to see for Mercedes. Maybe they make some upgrades on the suspension and just the general ride of their car, and it seems to be working for them this race weekend, as we are now seeing Max Verstappen was the first one out. He's making his way through the lower sectors of the Mirabeau, as we're watching George Russell following on behind him, as you see those new buildings that have been constructed in Monaco as they are expanding the area of their country, essentially, being the small little seaside country about the length of 3 kilometers. Mango J saying hoping they bring back the V10s or at least the V8s. Now let's go straight for the V12s. George Russell setting the timing boards alight, fastest first and second sector, now coming through turn 18. Approaching 19 and 20, the final two corners now looking neat and tidy through the yellow flag, sector 2. What has happened now in sector 2? Has someone else gone into the barriers? Point 1 up goes George Russell. The green flag is now back, as it was supposedly Kevin Magnussen who had a little bit of a off. Everyone coming out on the soft tires now. Mango J saying the V16 is better. Yes, we'll get Bugatti in to help us with that, because that is what they've developed for their new range of road cars. So they're already one step ahead. Nico Hulkenberg goes even faster than George Russell by 0.3 seconds, as we're having some visuals of Charles Leclerc's girlfriend and some fans in the grandstands as well, just showing their support for Charles Leclerc. Max Verstappen now going even faster out on circuit, fastest first sector of anyone. Middle sector, though, not good enough for Verstappen. 0.2 down, as he's even down on Hulkenberg's time. Gets a little bit of traffic into Rasgas. Where does Verstappen finish? He comes across the line, only good enough for fifth. Lost a lot of time in sector 2 and sector 3. Watching what happens to Kevin Magnussen, the source of that yellow flag. Just expecting him to dive into the runoff zone into Mirabeau. Yes, he does get so close to those barriers when he does a little spin, but these drivers are so pinpoint professional that they can just keep it out of the barriers by a couple of millimeters. Just watching some more drivers testing themselves a little bit higher up in the order. Daniel Ricciardo goes up to 16th, gets dropped a couple positions from his original finishing points, as some others were on hot laps behind him. Merlin says, what I don't get is why we do a yellow flag being shown in sector 1, and it looks like Lewis Hamilton has gone deep into Sandoval. Just going back to that comment from Merlin saying, what I don't get is why do we have to suffer from 26 to 29 just to supposedly get V8 or even V10 in 2030? Why not in 26 already? I would certainly agree with you on that. Why leave it for so long? But I think it's because they want to develop the sustainable fuels on a power system that they already are quite familiar with, and then hopefully we can move on to something else. But I agree, rather just move on to the bigger engines with the sustainable fuels from the outset. Mango J saying 2026 regulations make the car smaller, absolute poggers. But of course, the older engines were smaller capacity or smaller block sizes, so that's why they had that scream. As Lewis Hamilton, just watching a replay of him going deep into Sandoval, locking up on his soft tires, really destroying those tires. Max Verstappen on another push lap right now. Just an absolute traffic jam at the moment, approaching to back. Max Verstappen with a ton of traffic in front of him. He will not be impressed with that as he gets forced to back off on his lap now. Charles Leclerc also approaching to back, coming through there now. Verstappen goes on the radio saying, "My God," just complaining about all of the traffic congestion that he's been having to deal with. As now uh, Leclerc also dealing with a little bit of the traffic into the final two corners now, crossing the line. Does he improve on his lap time? He does. Good enough for second place. 0.1 down on Oscar Piastri. 250 of you in the comment section and in the stream right now. Be sure to hit the like button and let me know where you're watching in from, who you're supporting. As Old Man Roos says, Oscar is flying. He certainly is, with that fastest lap time of 112.875. Mango J saying, if Leclerc Orlando gets podium, I'll be the absolute happiest man alive. Norris now coming to finish up a lap for himself on the soft tyres, comes across the line. Where does he go? Up to fifth, still not able to match what his teammates doing out on circuit. Very interesting indeed. As Carlos Sainz goes into third with the fastest final sector. Hulkenberg once again finishes up a lap, 0.4 down on Piastri's time, improves his time, but doesn't improve his position as Magnussen goes up into third. Mango J saying, watching from Malaysia. Jonathan Penrose saying, watching from New Zealand. Thank you very much for joining us. Watching a replay of Max Verstappen's traffic incidents. I'm sure we'll get some impeding notices here as Max Verstappen slows down and gets very animated and upset with the Williams of that's Logan Sargent that blocked him. Max Verstappen not happy at all with him. As we're watching Jack Doohan just showing us some trackside views from his house on Formula One TV. Brilliant to see. This is the Doohan residence that we're actually watching in from, which is alongside the start finish straight, which is just an amazing place to live, I'm sure, for Jack Doohan. Speak of a home race. He literally has his house pretty much right where the P1 spot is for starting on Sunday. Les Green saying, watching from Port Alfred, I hope Team Haas gets into Q3. Thank you very much for joining us. Midnight Firehawk saying, watching from Malaysia. As Merlin says, my boy Leclerc has got to get this win tomorrow. Hope he doesn't deserve this Ferrari strategic mess up all over again. Verstappen going fast in the first sector. That gets stolen away from uh, Mango J's, Merlin's man, Charles Leclerc, who goes even faster by zero point 0.1 seconds in that first sector. Verstappen 0.1 down on Piastri's time in the middle sector. Can Leclerc beat Piastri's middle sector time? Waiting for him to hit that marker. Verstappen coming through Rasgas, approaching 19 and 20 now. DRS opens wide for the start finish straight. Approaching the finish line, only goes second. 0.2 down on Piastri's time. Leclerc down in the middle sector. Now coming through Rasgas, really close to that inside barrier. Through 19 and 20, also once again close as you come over the bump. DRS open, approaching the start finish line. Will he take that top spot? Yes, he does, as a yellow flag is shown in sector 1 as we have a McLaren in the runoff zone. Patrick Yarrod saying Verstappen and Perez 16th and 17th. It is now P3 and 17th, as the yellow flag is still being shown in sector 1. I think that is Piastri. As Norris goes over the line, only improves well enough for 6th. Sainz improves up for 4th. Mango J saying, imagine Red Bull doesn't get on the podium this weekend. Obviously not happening, but I am hoping for it. Piastri eventually gets himself out of that runoff zone. He also flat spotted his soft tires into that first runoff zone. Jonathan Pemrose saying Piastrami for the win. Just watching a replay of Piastri's lockup and run off into that first runoff zone. What happened for him here? Yeah, he just, I think, went a little bit deep on the brakes. Not too big of a lockup, but you can just see him going deep on the brakes and just having to go into the runoff and do a 20-point turn. Perez now on a push lap. Will he be able to improve? Personal best first sector for himself. FI should say no further investigation for Magnussen, Hulkenberg, and Tsunoda in turn 9 for impeding. Waiting for Perez to come through the second sector marker to see where his lap is compared to Charles Leclerc's. Down by 0.6 seconds. That should be enough to put him in between the Ferrari of Sainz and the Haas of Kevin Magnussen, though. Perez backs off of his lap now to let Albon through, as Perez, I think, dives into the pits. Albon finishing up his lap. Where can he put himself? Crosses the line, up. Good enough for 5th place, as we see another big lockup for Sergio, or that is rather Lando Norris, as Verstappen is much more on the limit this time, 0.053 behind Charles Leclerc, getting a little bit out of sorts into turn 16. Now coming through the final 2 corners, 19 and 20, DRS open, a little bit of oversteer coming through Rasgas. Across the line, not good enough to improve. Watching on board with Lando Norris coming through turn 10 and 11, losing his signal a little bit here as we come through Monaco. Now through to back. And now the swimming pool sector, really difficult. Left, right-hander into another right, left-hander. Then a little bit of a long left-hander and then quick into Rasgas, which is a right-hander. Then another right and left. The final 2 corners of the circuit. DRS open as you slowly go right for the straight. And good enough lap time for him to get into 4th place. Verstappen 0.2 seconds off the pace of Charles Leclerc right now. Just watching this incident from Norris, massive lockup for the lap that he's just finished now, and watching Perez getting traffic. Comes onto the radio saying, what is this idiot doing? As he gets badly held back by one of the Saubers. Old Man Roo saying, come on, Danny Rick, fire up. I'm certainly hoping for that myself. Yuki Tsunoda, 2nd place. 5 thousandths away from Charles Leclerc. Phenomenal lap from Yuki Tsunoda. Charles Leclerc faster in the middle sector now, though, as we see George Russell cutting the first corner. Merlin saying that they would prefer a Hamilton pole to a Verstappen pole, but Leclerc would be best, of course. TC saying drivers are rarely pushing now. They certainly are, as Leclerc goes even faster than Tsunoda, Piastri, and Verstappen. Verstappen, though, faster in the first sector now. What can he do through the second and third? The Red Bull's good through the first sector, but seems to just fall away through the second and third sector, the more technical sectors. Turn 11 and 12 for Verstappen approaching to back. 0.1 down on Leclerc's time through sector 2. Quite a lot still to make up, though, for Verstappen. Pureblood saying Yuki has been stepping it up big time this year. He certainly has been. As Verstappen now approaches the start-finish line, can he improve well enough? 0.2 down on Leclerc in the end, 0.258, just faster than Yuki Tsunoda in their sister team. Of course, we often see Yuki Tsunoda really just chucking all of the fuel out and going on a really hot lap in preparation for qualifying later on. And then he does fall a little bit down the order, of course, in qualifying because everyone else matches that. But Tsunoda's still having some phenomenal pace out on circuit. Watching a replay of Verstappen coming through this swimming pool sector, does he make some contact with the wall? I don't think he does. He just gets super, super close. Little bit of an understeer moment, but he just gets centimeters away from touching the wall there. He knows all too well what happens if you hit the wall there. He did that in qualifying, I think 2016. Merlin saying, apart from all the pole talk, Yuki has been dominating Ricciardo the entire season, except from maybe Miami Sprint. But other than that, Ricciardo is just too inconsistent. He certainly is, and it's very disappointing because I was really hoping with Ricciardo coming back into a Red Bull owned team that it would play into the mindset of himself and just bring back the Daniel Ricciardo of old. But he still seems to be struggling around certain circuits. Charles Leclerc once again going fast out on circuits, almost 0.1 up on himself. Lindy was saying if Yuki keeps the momentum going and his attitude in check, a podium is highly possible this year. What do we think? I certainly think that's possible. If he continues that as well, a seat in Red Bull could also be very, very likely. Verstappen, 0.4 on Leclerc now, as Leclerc sets another faster lap. Verstappen coming onto the radio saying, just asking how the last lap was, saying it was good. Verstappen saying, yeah, I mean, I know where I can gain time, but it's just not possible. We know why. Then being responded by, yep, understood. Very, very interesting down in Red Bull. Are they fighting with some issues on their car or just sandbagging a little bit right now? Verstappen faster in first sector now. 0.2 once again down in the second sector. Clearly, they just struggle with bumpy and low speed circuits. It just does not play into the setup of this concept of car. As Verstappen goes slightly faster, now 0.299 behind Charles Leclerc's time. You can see how much harder Verstappen has to work the wheel than the two Ferrari drivers. The two Ferrari drivers just having really good balance in their cockpits. Midnight Firehawk saying, doubt that Red Bull will get podium. Their race pace just doesn't compare even with the fourth place team, Merck. I don't know where that's coming from because they still won the race out in Imola. But I think they're still going to be able to at least get a podium here. Overtaking around the circuit is super, super difficult. And we know how good of a qualifier Max Verstappen is. Lewis Hamilton just getting all over the curb through turn 15 and 16. Really, really close to the Armco barriers, but just managing to keep it out. Lewis Hamilton now backing off. Les Green saying, what tyres are being used at the moment? The majority of the drivers are all out on soft tyres, just getting some data ahead of qualifying later on this afternoon. Watching that replay of Lewis Hamilton, just, sure, I thought he was going to go into the barriers. It was really, really close there. I see. Midnight Firehawk saying the Red Bull Junior team. If You mean Racing Bulls? It's VCOB. Uh, if I see RB, I think Red Bull. As Merlin says, these names are so confusing. I certainly agree with you, Merlin. Uh, Having two teams with really similar acronyms for their names. Charles Leclerc once again climbing the hill on another push lap. Lewis Hamilton on the radio. Just being told he was on par with Charles Leclerc until his mistake in turns 15 and 16. Will Buxton saying it was a brown flag moment for Lewis Hamilton, just meaning that there was a possible accident in his pants because it was getting so close to just diving into the barriers. Just looking at this Monaco uh, circuit and just how compact the the pit lane is here in Monaco. It is absolutely tiny. They built up on top of each other. Just seeing how the teams managed to squeeze all of their equipment into such a small amount of space here. Lindiwe saying, curious question, do you guys think that Red Bull might be experiencing diminishing returns, smaller benefits derived from new upgrades? Did investing in upgrades minus from the core performance of the RB22 and RB23? Certainly could be very interesting as we're seeing Jack Doohan still talking from his house in Monaco right now. Well, just going back to that question from Lindy, where it certainly does seem that Red Bull haven't made the step forward with the upgrades that they brought, because maybe their car is already right at the ragged edge of where you can develop it. So we'll have to wait and see whether they can bring any other upgrades that bring performance for the car, or whether that is unfortunately something that they're going to have to deal with and struggle with for the rest of the year. Just getting their car into the right setup to maximize a pretty tricky car by the looks of things at the moment. 20 minutes remaining of this Monaco FP3 session ahead of qualifying later on. George Russell making his way through to back. Now through the swimming pool chicane. Just such an iconic circuit around here in Monaco. Just an absolute spectacle for the fans around here. Not necessarily the most incredible racing, but just incredible that we're able still to come racing around a circuit like this in the country where everything pretty much stands still for an entire week when the Formula One circus makes its way through town. Midnight Firehawk saying it looks like Adrian Newey's creation has reached its maturity and an overhaul in the design is necessary to keep ahead. That is certainly what they had to do at the end of last season into this season. They brought a completely radical design change as George Russell has gone fastest in the first sector, waiting to see what he'll do throughout the rest of the sector now. Leclerc is also on another outlap as Hamilton moves himself up into P4, 0.425 down on Leclerc's fastest lap time. Old Man Roo saying, I think Red Bull are coming apart with their off track drama. It certainly could be. There's a lot that has been said about what's going on behind the scenes in Red Bull, a bit of a power struggle supposedly going on there as well. So that can always cause uncertainty and unsettled workers in the team, which of course do not bring the best performance. Merlin just saying, just think about how Mercedes' gap was in 2016 versus 2021, for example, as Alonso is going faster right now out on circuit than Charles Leclerc. Fastest middle sector for him right now, approaching the final two corners, 19 and 20. DRS now wide open, approaching the start finish line. And where can Alonso put himself? He goes second ahead of George Russell. 0.110 down on Charles Leclerc's fastest time. Brilliant for himself. Valtteri Bottas out of his car, unfortunately, because of that mistake that he made in the swimming pool sector. Old Man Ruth saying maybe Jack Doohan can drop a banana in front of Yuki. I'm sure he could if he really wanted to, with where his apartment is situated above the start finish straight. 280 of you watching alongside with me at the moment. Thank you very much for joining us in our stream on Forever Motorsports. Be sure to support the channel by joining us as a channel member. If you have been watching for multiple weekends, you can do that by checking out the link in the description below. You can also check out our channel partners, BITDEFENDER, who can help you with all of your cybersecurity needs. They are also linked down below in the description. Watching Charles Leclerc coming through the tunnel right now with his new race engineer this weekend. Ferrari just hoping that that will help with the mindset of Charles Leclerc and help give him a bit of a fresh start and bring back that performance that has been missing a little bit. Albon on the radio now saying, we don't know what we're doing on the front tires, just nowhere. The fronts are gone so early in the lap. Same issues that they had last season, where the tires just get absolutely eaten by their car. Midnight Firehawk saying, yet to be seen if Red Bull is a team to beat in 26. Forget about 2026. Even in 25, I think Ferrari will start to beat. And, well, Ferrari will be the team to beat, and Max will have to fend off McLaren's for a place on the podium. That would certainly be phenomenal if we're able to get that Midnight Firehawk. As Carlos Sainz goes second by just 2,000s to Charles Leclerc. He's behind him. As now Piastri is finishing up his lap. He's currently in P9. Where will he be able to be? Ron Green asking for gap to leader. There is no gap to leader. It's not a race. This is a practice session, so everyone is setting their fastest times, and that is the gap to the fastest time out on circuit. Ron. Midnight Firehawk saying maybe even in 2024 we'll see the scenario and it will be clear towards the end of the European leg. Mango J saying without new Red Bull will start washing off. Leclerc half a second on his previous lap. Verstappen fastest in the first sector for himself. As Leclerc goes even faster out on circuit, 0.6 up on his own fast lap. So now Carlos Sainz is 0.610 down on his teammate. Max Verstappen now coming through the final sector. He was half a second down though. Big bounce as he comes through the final two corners. Cross the line, fourth place, 7/10 adrift of Leclerc. Just absolutely crazy right now what is happening. Red Bull lost a lot of pace in this circuit. Really just not clearly agreeing with their design of car. Albon getting really close to the barrier through turn 19 and 20. Big amounts of opposite lock there. Having a massive amount of oversteer, drifting it through the corner. Watching Max Verstappen. This is his replay. This is possibly why. This is previous lap rather. This is that he backed off of. Just watching Leclerc, how close he gets to the barriers on the end of 12 and 13. 13 minutes and 26 seconds remaining on the clock for this session. Tsunoda now coming through the middle sector, approaching the swimming pool chicane, 0.6 down on Leclerc's fastest time. Just the change in direction that he's able to get in that V-carb is quite impressive. Whether it's on really low fuel or whether that's just a really good representative uh, corner for Tsunoda. He is looking really one with the car, continues to stay in 10th place, improves his time, doesn't improve his position. Oscar Piastri, once again, finding some pace for himself out on circuit, up into P5. His teammate is down in P15. Certainly hoping Lando Norris is able to find a bit more pace out on circuit. Carlos Sainz just giving himself a bit of a gap right now. He gets Fernando Alonso for company. Race control noting a turn 10 incident involving Russell and Norris. Mango J just with a prediction saying at least one Sauber is going to have problems with the car. Lindiwe saying, is Red Bull's championship trajectory tied to Horner's role? So if Red Bull loses the competitive edge in 25, are these Horner's final years as team principal, or will he stay on to steer the team in the slump year? Well, we'll have to wait and see. He's been with the team since its conception, really, as Red Bull. But there have been rumors that he tried to buy out the team with some investors. Uh, the original investors aren't very happy about that, so there's a bit of tension there. But we don't really know what is happening on behind closed doors. We'll have to wait and see what does transpire over the next coming months. But yeah, it just shows you how politics behind the scenes can really affect your pace out on circuit. Watching Piastri going on another flyer now with 10 minutes left to go. Incident between Russell and Norris will be investigated after the session, we're being told. As Midnight Firehawk says, that remains to be seen, Lindy, where lots of drama though. Lots of drivers out on circuit. Everyone bar Valtteri Bottas, whose car was not able to put on a lap time before he dumped it into the barriers. Every single other driver is out on circuit and they're all out on soft tyres preparing ahead of qualifying later on this afternoon. Lewis Hamilton just taken aback by the gap to Charles Leclerc, especially given that it is such a large margin right now. Perez 0.7 down on Leclerc's time as he is now coming through the middle sector. Just watching Perez finishing up this lap now, coming to turn 19 and 20 through Rasgas, looking a little bit unsettled through the exit. But he now finishes up his lap, and that's good enough for 10th place. Red Bull still not on the pace of the top runners right now. Who knows what is happening for those cars? This is where it really starts to all get a little bit more tricky now when you start to try and extract as much lap time as possible. You take those extra risks, you get that little bit closer to the barrier, you try go through this sector a little bit faster. You do that and you make those sacrifices and those risks to try and gain that track time. But it could also mean that you end up in the barriers at such a tricky circuit like this. We'll have to wait and see whether people can keep it nice and neat. But I at least expect one um, red flag in qualifying. Norris getting some traffic coming onto the race, saying, idiots, these blokes, all of them, not all of them, just some of them. It's just that he's been held up by George Russell approaching the braking into turn 10. Very, very upset at him, just pushing him a little bit wide before that turn there. And he does get a lot of uh, impeding there from George Russell. Watching Oscar Piastri, who does club with the barriers a little bit, approaching the swimming pool sector, not causing any damage, fortunately, but he will come into the pits just to get a once over on his car, and then they will let him back out for the remaining 7 minutes and 30 seconds of this session. Norris finding more time. He's up into P3 now, 0.619 down on Charles Leclerc, very close to Carlos Sainz's time, though. Ocon coming through the final sector now. Will he be able to improve from his P16 time right now? Pierre Blais saying a big shock for 2024. I predict as Russell jump ship possibly to Red Bull. He has the same contract as Hamilton, so 2025 is a plus 1 year. Therefore, Russell or Merck can terminate at the end of 2024. It will certainly be very interesting to see what happens. Supposedly, Red Bull have offered Sergio Perez a 1 year contract. He wants a 2 year deal. So who knows what's going to happen? The driver market is still full open right now. And that is why Carlos Sainz is not ready to jump ship just yet to Audi, who have reportedly offered him a massive amount of money to join the team. But Carlos Sainz wants to go somewhere competitive. He doesn't know what's going to happen in Audi just yet. Verstappen improves on his lap time. 0.5 now, 589 down on Leclerc, still half a second. Ticking into the final few minutes, and Verstappen still half a second down on the top driver's time. The middle sector of the racetrack is rarely where Leclerc is able to hook his car up and gain a ton of time. Carlos Sainz clearly went over that data last night, was able to gain a bit of time into this session today and find a bit of an edge as he did the research and found out where Leclerc was gaining his time. Piastri now, he has been sent up onto circuit once again after having a little bit of a clubber into the barriers through the swimming pool sector. He's 0.2 down on Leclerc, though, through the first sector. So one of the more closer drivers being able to match the likes of Charles Leclerc. Piastri now braking hard for turn 10 and 11. Very, very difficult chicane. 0.4 down as he comes through the middle sector. So still losing time to Charles Leclerc. 4/10 of a second in the middle sector. Another random human saying, I think we may be able to do this. It is another weekend with damn good pace. Piastri now comes across the start finish line for second place at 111.9 to Leclerc's 111.3. Half a second still down. Ever so slightly ahead of Max Verstappen, but still half a second down on Charles Leclerc. Last 4 minutes of the session. As Midnight says, Max is clearly driving the socks off of his car. Verstappen goes fastest in sector 1 as George Russell cuts the first corner. 6 drivers right now, all separated by less than a tenth. As Mango says, 2025 is about to be very interesting. What can Max Verstappen do through the middle sector where he has been losing all that time? 0.1 down on Leclerc now through there. Much better. The closest he's been all day, all weekend to Charles Leclerc. Let's see what he can do now. Coming through Rasgas. Final sector, final 2 corners now. Turn 19 and 20. DRS opens wide. Looks less bumpy though through turn 19 and 20, which is good for him. Cross the line, goes second with 111.5. at least. It's finally under 0.2 of a second to Charles Leclerc, a little bit closer, but not close enough just yet. Hopefully he'll be able to close that gap into qualifying later on. Hamilton not looking rapid through the final corner. He finishes up his lap time with a 1:11.7 up into P3. As Piastri dives into the pits, that is the end of his FP3 session. 2 minutes and 50 seconds remaining. 392 of you watching alongside with us right now. Thank you very much for joining in on our stream here on Forever Motorsports. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as well, and check out our channel partner down in the description, BITDEFENDER, for all of your cybersecurity needs. And if you're a regular on the channel, be sure to think about becoming a channel member if you would like to support the channel. So notice coming onto the race saying that is so dangerous in the tunnel. I was going outside. I was going on the outside and I nearly crashed into the wall. I think he had a McLaren, if I'm not mistaken. Let me try and see if I can get a replay of that. Who got in his way? Aston Martin. Oh, no, that's a Red Bull. So Yuki Tsunoda just having a little bit of a moan on the radio, as we now have 2 minutes remaining of this free practice 3 session out in Monaco. Verstappen comes onto the radio saying, if I did more laps like that, I'll end up in the beeping fence. So yeah, certainly was pushing on his final push lap that he has done. As we see Yuki Tsunoda locking up on the brakes a little bit on his final push lap. Once again on maximum attack out here in Monaco. Verstappen also pushing one more time. What can he do through the first sector? 0.1 up on himself. So could they finally be showing their true pace possibly in this Red Bull? He's certainly going for it right now. Looking a lot more hooked up through the middle sector. The track is at its theory the best grip right now. Verstappen coming through 10 and 11. Tricky set of corners. Doesn't look like he has all that much traffic ahead of him as he approaches and comes through to back at 220 kilometers now. 0.1 down on Leclerc in the middle sector. Up in the first, down in the middle. And a ton of traffic as he comes into the final sector. Will he still be able to improve himself coming through turn 18? It looks like he's backed off, unfortunately. Might back off and go and try to do one final lap right now. Brilliant first sector, no personal best in the second sector, and then has to abort in the final sector due to some traffic. Midnight Firehawk saying, other than Bottas going to Sauber, I feel if Russell rarely leaves Merck, then I'm sure Bottas will be on in contention again, but we'll need to look at his relationship with Toto Wolff. I'm hearing rumors that Valtteri Bottas might be going to Williams, which would certainly be a great driver lineup with himself and Alex Albon. As I agree with Mango J saying that there's a mid-chance that Bottas returns to Mercedes, as Hamilton does not improve on his final lap time of 1:12.7. Perez finishing up a lap time right now, not where he would want to be right now in this 8th round of the Formula One season, approaching to back, still fighting the wheel in his Red Bull, 0.492 down on the pace of Charles Leclerc. Perez opens his DRS, approaches the final start-finish line for today, and he improves himself up into P5, half a second down on Charles Leclerc. So that was a really interesting session. Going into qualifying later on, we've got some really, really good indicators as to who should be quite fast. The Ferraris certainly looking to be the cream of the crop today. Leclerc once again topping a session here, having topped FP2 as well. It is going to be a really, really punchy set of lap times being set in qualifying later on. Charles Leclerc is going to want to take that P1 top spot ahead of the race tomorrow afternoon. Max Verstappen is going to be pouring over the data, I'm sure, before qualifying later on, as the Red Bulls still not able to really extract the pace that they would like right now. As Verstappen is being investigated for driving unnecessarily slowly. Thank you very much, though, for joining me here on Forever Motorsports. Be sure to like the channel, subscribe as well if you are not already. We're getting close to 6,000 subscribers on this channel. Next up, we will be doing the Moto GP sprint race, which is at, I think it's 3 p.m. South African time. Then we will be bringing you the qualifying at 4 p.m. South African time. So be sure to stick around. We've got some great builder packages coming for you guys. But once again, thank you very much for joining me here on Forever Motorsports. I've been Reese. Cheers.